Evening, everyone. So it's been a hell of a day, but I'm really pleased to be spending the evening having a chat with Gareth Ike, who has really kindly joined us this evening. We're going to talk about this year, what's been going on, how we feel about it, and what we're going to do next. Because, as I'm sure you're all aware, Gareth has been really active. He's been attending loads of events and speaking out, and yeah, so I'm really pleased to have you here, Gareth. And we've obviously just been chatting about how shocked we are by what's been going
Everything.
on this year.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
clown planet. I've only just noticed as well, because I can see myself, that I actually look like Freddie Mercury a bit. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I might have to get rid of that. It's a bit, yeah. But yeah, it's a clown planet, but it's kind of I find I was having a conversation with someone yesterday actually, and we were saying how there's this British sense of humour that we just laugh at things that are really bad, and other countries don't seem to have that. And I think I'm just at a point now where I'm just laughing because it's just so mad, isn't it? What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And I almost just think that that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My coping mechanism is I just have to keep doing stuff. Like I just keep doing. I don't stop, and that for me is the only thing that keeps me going. Because I'm like, well, at least I'm doing everything I can. I know that much. But yeah,
Well,
it
yeah,
is. It's just crazy what is. And we were just saying, like, at the beginning of this year, everyone started 2020, roaring 20s. It's a new decade. It's going to be great. And, there was some whisperings of some sort of something, but nobody was really paying any attention. And here we are 10 months later. And yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, where did you envisage yourself at the beginning
well,
of this year?
I feel a little bit guilty in a way, right? Because I'm not very good at planning ever,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I remember going for a walk with a friend of mine in probably the end of January, I think it was, and we do these crazy walks, like 25, 30-mile walks and stuff. And some people listening will be like, "That's not crazy. I do that to work," but for me, it's crazy. And I sort of we were talking about planning and stuff because he's a project manager, so obviously he plans everything. And I was like, "Do you know what? I've sorted it this year." I said, "I've got a plan for every single month." And he was like, "Really?" I went, "Yeah." So I'm reeling off this stuff. So I was like, February, I'm doing this and that, blah blah, and then March, got this, and then April we're going here. May, it's my mum's 70th, June, and I had something every month booked in. So this month I'm going to Scotland on a
Mm-hmm.
whiskey tour, but I'm not now, obviously. Next month I'm watching Aha, but I'm not, obviously. So I had all these things and I reeled off all the way through to December. And I was like, see, you say I don't plan. And I wonder now if someone was listening to that in China and has gone, nah, no chance, not having
Best
it.
laid plans.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's frustrating, isn't it? Like, I had lots of plans this year and I know lots of other people did. And it's just sort of got to a point where everything fun has just been sucked out of everything.
Mm.
It's like they're looking at it going, can you go to work? Well, where's your work? Well, he's a musician. That's quite fun, isn't it? Being a musician. Yeah.
Mm.
No chance then. Oh, yeah. Where does he work? He's a dustbin man. That's fine. That's fine. That. Off
Yeah,
you go.
yeah,
You can do that. That sounds grotty. So you can do that. Yeah. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything depressing, you can do it.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Anything, um, remotely positive, and anything with which promotes human connection as well. That's the other thing they're really stamping out. Is anything with human connection, anything like that. They just are absolutely doing away with. Because that's what I'm finding is yeah, they're just getting in
Oh
the way of
yeah.
all of that.
It's by design as well. Like I saw, like today, I nipped out and there's a bench. It's like 3-seater bench, and there's normally like a couple of old dears on it just chatting. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no one on it, and there's just a big sign in the middle, like stuck on it, a big red label like that big, just says "keep your distance." And then
Yeah.
just before we came on air, actually, I was just reading a news article from a senior general in the American military who's saying that nothing's going back to normal and social distancing and masks are we're just going to have to accept that, and that's how it is now. It's like, well, no, for a start, but there will be people that will go, yeah, he's right,
Mm-hmm.
because of we need to stay apart. And I think, what must it be like to be single now? Like, do you know what I
Mm.
mean? To be a single guy, or even say like a single woman who's you know, of an age where you're thinking, you know, I've got a few years to settle down, biological clock, or whatever, that sort of thing. I want to meet a man and I want to settle down. I want to have a family. What do you do? Because you can't. Where'd you meet them?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? 2 meters apart. Like, it's, do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
optimistic.
How are you meant to date in this day and age?
Well, that's it. That's it. How are you supposed to do it? And then, you know, you've got these kids partying in Liverpool in the street, which is amazing, by the way.
Yes.
And people looking at it going, oh, look at them students who are getting like 35 grand in debt. How dare they have fun?
Mm-hmm.
They should be sat in their halls eating Pop-Tarts, you know, watching telly. It's like, come on, mate.
I know, right? It's just yeah, no, I think it'd be really difficult. I'm single, but I've got my kids, so I'm kind of I'm quite content in my singledom. I put my kids to bed, and then I'm quite happy to sit quietly on my own. Not that I sit very quietly. I'm often doing.
No, you're busy. You're doing loads. Yeah, I get what you mean though, in terms of being busy, because you feel like well, you are doing something. You're doing lots, but it's also that kind of. I'm a bit like that sometimes, where I'll just post a news story, you know, and it's just so I feel like I'm doing something, like I'm, you know, because I almost feel guilty if I'm just sat back while all this is happening. Mm-hmm. You know, which again, that's actually another way that they can take fun away from you, because you won't allow yourself to have any fun, because it's like, no, like my wife and little one are down on the Isle of Wight seeing family, because like as far as lockdowns for me, I didn't lock down the first time, and I'm not locking down this time. You can shove it, but it's difficult with family on the Isle of Wight because they can make the boats freight only, and so obviously you're in trouble there. You know, I mean, I swam it once, but I'm not going to do it with my daughter on my back. I'm not that good a swimmer, but so they've gone down to just try and get, you know, a family together thing before, obviously, you know, it all kicks off. So the last couple of nights I've been at home on my own, and in the old days I would sit there and I'd like, you know, maybe play a video game or have a glass of wine or watch a film like an old film that she hates. And I just find myself just looking at the news, just refreshing. And it's like, mate, just give yourself a break. But I can't.
No. And so so when did you, I'm assuming you were kind of one of the early adopters of kind of calling this out and kind of going, no, this just doesn't make any sense. Like, I imagine, especially with your upbringing as well.
Well, for me, like, it was a case of, I looked at it, I didn't know what it was. Obviously, it was, you know, no one knew what it was at the start, and it was like kind of, I don't know how bad it is. There's talk of labs and weapons and stuff like that, and it's like kind of, I don't know, so I'm not going to say anything because I don't know. But I just looked at it in a sense of what they were then ushering in and what was happening, and it was almost like I was looking at it like, you know, there was some quite nasty people that wanted to buy the local pub and turn it into a wine bar, and the guy wasn't selling, and then all of a sudden the pub burnt down and the wine bar lot moved in. I would look at that and go, well, that's not happened by accident. So I don't know who started the fire, but I reckon it's something to do with that lot, you know. And so that sort of thing was going on there. It was like, it's not right. And then the more that came out, you know, and the more you realise that there were death certificates being scammed. And then I had two friends, the only two people actually I know who have had someone die and have COVID on the death certificate. Both contacted me privately to say that that's not what happened at all. And they were both actually, I should chase them up on this actually. They were both appealing. Both families were appealing the death certificate. One was a fella who had cancer for, I think he'd been given something like 6 months to live, something like 9 months ago. So he was already like winning in terms of the amount of time. And you know, he died and he'd fought it for years until it obviously became terminal. And so the family were like, that's a disgrace. That's disgrace to him because he's fought this, you know, and now he's got just COVID put on there. And and then another friend that I went to school with, his father died, and he messaged me saying, no, it was X, Y, and Z. There was a series of things that it was. And so I was thinking, right, if it's deadly, you don't fix figures. Like, you know, World War II, should we just say he died? Yeah, but I'm not dead. It's fine. Just you wouldn't do that, would you? Because you wouldn't have to. And so I thought then
that was my thing as well, because I started the group Save Our Rights on the 16th of April, and that was the day when Sir Patrick Vallance said live on TV in front of the nation, you know, it's worth remembering that the ONS data is just those that have got COVID on their death certificate, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're infected because many of them weren't tested.
Yeah,
And
you
he
go.
said this live on TV, and the mainstream media didn't challenge him. And I was like, what is going on here? Like this isn't right. And like you say, you wouldn't have to do that. You'd almost think they'd do it the opposite way. You think, oh, they'd go,
play it down, play it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that one's got COVID, but don't put it down, because like we need to look like we're doing a good job here. Like we need to look like we're managing this situation. You know, that's what you'd almost expect from the government, is to go the other way. But they're
Exactly.
not. They're inflating it to justify all of these measures, because there isn't any other reason why they would inflate the figures. They would deflate them as much as possible otherwise, if they were trying to look like they were doing a good job.
Of course they would. Of course they would. And
so,
you wouldn't have to, you wouldn't put do not resuscitate orders on people. No. Like, we're protecting the elderly. Well, what's the first thing you're going to do? We'll put a do not resuscitate on them then. What?
And have you seen the new guidelines for when you do CPR? Is somebody stop breathing, put a blanket over their face.
Oh yeah. Suffocate them if they stop breathing. That's the best thing to do, isn't it? It's mad, isn't it? And I think that's the thing. If you look at something, and you can just look at it critically and just say, like for instance, the do not resuscitate orders. If you're trying to protect a certain group of people, you don't let them die. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, that's like we want to make roads safer, right? Well, we'll just take all the ambulances away from the roads then.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not how it works. It's very odd,
It's very bizarre.
But early doors in it, actually, I got a message from a friend of mine who runs a care home in the northwest. Oh my god, I was thinking about geography then. In the northwest, and he said to me, like, this is murder. What's happening? He basically said, I'm done. When this is over, I'm done. Because he got into care for that very reason, obviously, to care. And he said that basically they hadn't had a single test done for any patient or any resident there, but they'd said that they think doctors had said, we think there's COVID in your home. So they ceased treatment. So they stopped coming in. Now, I don't know about you, but when I used to visit my granddad in a nursing home, it was like they were all rattling for all the medication. So it was like a hospital. And so if you want people to die, you don't have to hit them with a stick. You just don't treat them when they're already ill. Yeah. It's quite easy, isn't it? And another thing with that, I remember having an argument. It wasn't an argument because I don't tend to argue, but a guy was saying to me, well, what about 30,000 people that have died in care homes? How do you figure that with this not being this deadly, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, 10,000 a month die in care homes every month anyway. And he went, rubbish. Nah, that's nonsense. And I just thought, well, that's like really accessible data. So instead of saying nonsense, just go and find it out and then come back and apologize. But they do. So if in 7 months you've got 30,000 deaths when it's normally 10,000 a month anyway, it's not really that inflated.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing, isn't it? People just, especially in Britain, I find that we're very averse to talking about death as a whole. So we don't talk about it. We're not very good at grieving. We're not very good at being open about it. Tonight is actually a Wave of Light remembrance evening for babies that died, and I will be lighting my candle later for my one of my best friend's daughters who died when she was 22 days old. And my best friend has really had to fight to keep that conversation going, to really keep her memory alive, because British people are very adverse to it all. As we provided a really safe space for her to talk about Erin and remember Erin on a regular basis, even though it's nearly 9 years ago now. But and that's the thing. So we don't talk about death, and so we kind of pretend it doesn't happen, and so then we don't have any context. And like you say, 30,000 people regularly, that sort of numbers in care homes isn't that unusual, and through the winter, we have like 1,500 people die on a daily basis anyway. So when people were freaking out because 300 people had died and they'd given it the label of COVID, it's like, well, that's only a fifth of what's usual. Like, this isn't that bad. And again, it's like, it's all about context, isn't it? It's like when they originally said China's had 85,000 cases and 3,000 deaths. And 85,000 cases sounds like a big number until you remember that there's 1.6 billion people in China. And then it's like 85,000 isn't very many at all, is it?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It's just, for me, it's just taking a bit of critical thinking, a bit of context, and I've kind of gone, no, I can't.
Doesn't add up. Doesn't make. You look at it, and because I saw someone was saying, you know, there's more excess deaths now than there has been, and it was like, since when? Since 2008. Okay, well, what was the pandemic in 2008? Well, there wasn't one. Okay, well, what about 2007? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way back to 2000. So, okay, there's the most deaths this year since 2008. Well, what did we shut down in 2008? It's not like the most deaths since the Spanish flu or something like that. It's since 2008, like yesterday. So what were they dying of then? And what did we shut down? And how many jobs, you know? I think is it a world record number of suicides? I heard that today. That it's actually, you know, a record breaking number. There's never been so many. So, you know, and then you cancel cancer treatments, and you know, people obviously have different opinions on cancer treatments and what the treatments, whether they do more harm than good anyway. But other treatments, surgeries, heart disease, you know, all these sort of things where if it's about health, why would you shut them down? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly, and that's the thing, isn't it? And the suicide thing really breaks my heart. You know, these are, you know, I've literally just read another story of a young mum who had a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and you know, and those children's lives are, you know, because I think there's nothing worse than, you know, your mum kind of not being able to fight for you. I think, you know, that leaves a legacy that, you know, is gonna, you know, be a really hard one for those children to carry. And you know, anything that creates suicide and mental health issues and all of that stuff. So I think it's quite clear, isn't it? I think we've established it's not about health.
It's not. No chance. No, it's not. Because otherwise, for me, health is health. So it doesn't matter whether you're dying of COVID or you're dying of suicide or you're dying of heart disease or cancer, you're dying. So if the idea is to not do that, then you cover all bases. And this was the point I made when I spoke to the Times, which was the biggest mistake ever. And obviously they didn't even mention it. But I said to him, I said, I know more people that have killed themselves than I know have got COVID on the death certificate. And the people I know with it on the death certificate didn't die of it. And he was like, what? And I went, well, you know, we can have a conversation about that. I was like, you know, I've just in the last few days, I've seen people on Facebook basically say I'm done. And so I've obviously, you know, along with my brother, he has a couple of experiences of it as well. We private messaged them and like, mate, you know, it's like, this is crazy. You know, how do I know one person who's lost 7 friends to suicide. 7. And what, you know, and how many do you know who've died? Oh, none. Oh, right. Okay. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And gosh, that's just hard, isn't it? And yeah, so obviously you kind of saw that this wasn't what it was supposed to be, and yeah, and you felt like I did, that it wasn't right, that there was something not quite right. And so then you kind of started speaking out. And am I right in thinking that like this is the first year you kind of really got involved in kind of acting? You've been a performer and you've like,
I never like it, just I never did it, and I'd never done public speaking before. It was something that I just hadn't done, and you know, I'd sort of, you know, I've played in bands for years and done all that sort of stuff. But I remember bizarrely Dad talking to a psychic years ago when I was like a kid, when I was like 9 or 10, who said, you know, I'd go out and I'd be a speaker as well. And I was like, oh, piss off, I want to be a footballer. Like, I have no interest in doing that. But I got asked to speak in Birmingham, which I was kind of like, obviously honoured, but a little bit kind of, well, not a bit nervous. I was very nervous. I was like shaking Stevens, or stood up there. But it just felt right. And I just thought, you know what? I've got a 2-year-old. I can't shut up. I can't do that, because then what do I tell her? Do you know what I mean? What were you doing, Dad? I was watching Netflix. So, you know, I can't do that. So, and then I just got a feel for it, and I just, you know, like I've always been a bit of a gobshite anyway. And I'll speak my truth, and I'll just say it, and let the chips fall where they may. And it upsets people, then that's fine. I've noticed that a bit as well. Like you were saying, how people can't cope with the fact that people die. And so you say stuff and they think you're heartless. And it's like, well, I can flip it round on you then and say you don't care about people who are dying of suicide, so you're heartless as well. You know, if we're going to play that that blame game, that's fine. But also people die. They do, and you're going to die, and I'm going to die, and I'm quite happy about that, because if I was going to live forever, I think no, that doesn't appeal to me either. So people die. Very tiring, very boring, I think, after a while. I'm quite happy to go off and explore everything else that follows, and that's fine. And again, like, I think if we could have that conversation, and I think Germans are a bit better at it, and Scandinavians are a bit better at it, and then so you look at those countries and you think, okay, the Scandinavians haven't taken any of this, but the Germans, they've revolted far more than the Brits. They're you know, and it's another thing about the protests, and I know I've heard this said loads of times, and I'm not saying it for effect, but where are the blokes? It's really odd. It's really odd. Like, most of the organisers are women, which is obviously fantastic. But I'm also going, okay, well, where's the guys then? What are you doing, guys? Like, where are you? It's really odd, and I found it very strange, actually. That, and you know, people have got lots of theories. I've had lots of conversations with people where, you know, toxic masculinity and all this sort of stuff, like especially younger people have had that masculine side of them beaten out of them because it's seen as negative. But the masculine side says, no chance, mate, I'm not having it. And that's the masculine side of men and women, because obviously women have got a masculine side as well. And that side is the bit that says, you know, no, not tonight, Henry. And so that I find really surprising at these protests and stuff is I mean, there are guys out there, and when I say that, people go, "Oh, hang on, I was there." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm obviously not talking to you then, am I? If you were there." But there's a lot of guys that are just doing nothing, and it's odd to me.
It's I found it really odd as well, because you know, my Facebook group is, I think the stats last time I checked were 60% female. I'd gone down. It had been 68% female, so it actually swung a little bit, which is great. I'm all for it, because you know, and Vince, who I do save our rights with, you know, he keeps saying this. He's just like, where are they all? Where, like, you know, and there are some, and that's great, but where are the ones that are really willing to just go to any lengths? Because that's what it's ultimately going to take, isn't it? It's going to take people who are willing to go to any lengths, and you know, that needs to include men just as much as women, because even if all the women did get together, we wouldn't, like, it's not enough. Like, we need the men as well, but we do. We need everyone. We need everyone. What we need is the equivalent of people that will run into a burning building. Yeah. Because that's what it is, isn't it? Really, you know what I mean? Country's burning, world's burning. Yeah. But then I say that, then like obviously that's really great news that you've gone from 68% to 60%. And then I thought, you know, I was slagging off Scotland a bit. Like, come on, mate, where are we? And obviously they're starting to come good now. I wondered what Liverpool were up to, because the Scousers don't take any rubbish, but they're standing up now. Yeah. And you know, late to the party, but welcome. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really funny. I did some leafleting out in some streets a while ago, and it was just, it really baffled me, to be honest. All mask wearers baffled me. I kind of just look at them. Yeah. What are you doing? Like, it literally hurts my head when I look at them. But I found it really intriguing watching men with their partner and their families, and them all being masked up. And I'm just like, men are meant to be the protectors in this role. You know, why are they not protecting their family from these ridiculous rules? Like, do they really think that what they're doing is the protective thing by putting these masks on their children? You know, like, you know, everybody knows that lungs are an excreting organ. Like, who in their right mind can think that wearing a mask is healthy? And even if you don't even go into that, for me, it's just that symbol of like falling in line, that submission and everything else like that. And it's like, why are men submitting not only themselves but their whole families to rules and regulations that aren't based on facts and science? Like, what? Like, they're sacrificing themselves and their family, and it baffles me.
I think a lot of it, which can sound harsh, I think a lot of it is down to cowardice. I think that's exactly what it is. So it's like there's an advert on the radio all the time at the moment. Like, I wear my mask to protect my. No, you don't. You wear a mask because someone told you to wear a mask, mate. You weren't wearing it before it was mandated, so you don't wear it to protect anyone. You wear it because you're told to. But what you've got is you've got an excuse now. So you know that if you don't wear it, you might get a little bit of grief off the security guard. You might get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And even though you try and play the tough guy, not really. So I'll say I'm doing it for your benefit, and then that way I get to keep the moral high ground and be a coward at the same time, which is what it is in my view, And it's funny because like the most normal place, bizarre as it is CBeebies land, right? And if that's the most normal place, then I don't know what's happening. But we were booked for my daughter's second birthday, and that was in June. And obviously, everything was shut down. So they moved the booking to September. We got an email saying, you can come this weekend. And we were like, great. So we went, and it was amazing. Everything was normal. Staff here and there were wearing masks or whatever, but no one else was. The kids were playing. There was one woman that was just like, can you keep apart, please? And everyone just like glared at her and she walked off. And all the kids were hugging, and like they'd not had that for months. And I could see parents like just like that, like shaking their heads and smiling at each other, like this is normal. It's like, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And then in the evening we had some food, and you were supposed to wear masks in the hotel. No one did. And then we sat down, there was entertainment, the kids were dancing, we were having a few beers, and it was just, it was wonderful. Yeah. And it was so wonderful that my wife's birthday's at the end of September, and we hadn't booked anything in advance. Normally I'd take us away somewhere, but obviously we didn't know what was happening. And we, and then she was like, what should we do? And I was like, so we'll go see CBeebies Land. So we did. So we went back 10 days later. And so we went back to CBeebies Land. When we turned up, the woman was like, you all right? And I was like, yeah, it's my wife's birthday this time. And so they gave us an upgrade, and like all the rooms are themed, like, which is Excellent. Amazing. So they're like, we were in the Go Jetters room, which is for any parents out there, Go Jetters, amazing.
Super cool.
Yeah, but what's funny is I took a picture of the bedspread, like sexy innit, night with a wife, like it's obviously got all these like Go Jetters and stuff, and like some of the replies were like, "That's sick, mate," and then someone going nonce. I was like, I'm clearly joking, for God's sake, get a sense of humour. But that was fantastic. It was proper normal. Like everyone was just and I was just like this. So this is what it's like. So this is what I've been missing for the whole time, And whether it's like that now, I don't know, because obviously we've got more rules coming in and all that sort of stuff. But then it was great, and I was like, yeah, that's weird, isn't it? If CBeebies Land is the like normality for you.
It's not where I'd have thought. That's where I need to go to get some normality.
No, me either. No, but I loved it, and it was great. And it's not cheap. To be fair, it's not cheap, but it was great. And then, I kind of want to go back, really. But like I say, it's probably clown land now.
Yeah, and we're quite lucky here in Brighton. Brighton's just not too bad. It's pretty chilled. My kids don't go to a state school, and so everyone there is kind of an alternative mindset anyway. So not like most of my friends are kind of the similar sort of mindset, and and we've just not had any bother too much down here, and I'm so grateful for it. And then I go up to London, and I'm just like, whoa. Like, I get on the tube, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's so many masks. So yeah, I've been really grateful to be here. But it's so difficult, isn't it? Because you just kind of want to shake people and go, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
Like, how are you abiding by this? How are you not speaking out?
It's getting different where I am. So like I'm in Derby at the minute at the studio, but I don't live in Derby. I live about 7 or 8 miles out. Right. And so basically Erewash, which is a valley, has been shut. That's gone up to a level 3 now, right?
Okay.
Well, that border is 2 miles from my house. And so where I am, and a couple of the towns over in Erewash, like I knock around those areas, and so I know people in those areas, and people that live in my village work in those areas and stuff like that. And so I've had quite a few conversations with people, and like 2 of the people that work here at Iconic, they live in Erewash, and it's like, but you don't know anyone, do you? It's like, no, you don't know anyone that knows anyone. No. Does your mum know anyone? No. And so people are starting to realise that. And so the guy that lives next door but one to me, he works in a factory. So factories are supposedly where all these things are all kicking off, because all these guys together. And he's saying to me, well, I don't know anyone, none of the lads know anyone. And you're like, but your area's just gone to a level 3 lockdown. And these are small villages. Like, we're talking, I don't know, 2,000 people max. And so you got 2,000 people, which sounds a lot, but actually is really, right, for the rule of 6 in terms of how many people it's really not that many. And it's very odd then that you don't know someone, they don't know anyone, no one knows anyone. So they're now starting to go, well, hang on, and so that's like, for me, that's great, because I'm sort of like, you know, it was funny. I saw a guy tweet earlier, and he was like, "Who thought when they said it was a 3-week lockdown that it was going to end up 7 months later being like the Hunger Games?" And I was like, me. Like,
Yes.
do you know what I mean? Me. And a fair few others, to be fair, of like yourself, that back in April were going, nah, we need to do something, because this isn't normal. This isn't right. This isn't, what's going on. And so, yeah, I'm actually optimistic. As weird as it sounds, I am now, because I was talking, like, I remember talking to my dad, and he was saying, and I was saying, like, I think there's a 3-week window. I think there's a 3-week window when furlough either disappears, or as they're doing it, they're just cutting it back, as if people can survive without 33% of their wages.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I normally just bury that in the garden because I don't want it. And so you're going to be crippling people. And plus, all these people are unemployed now. They're building 100 new job centres, aren't they?
Nice.
God knows what jobs are in them. But yeah, so I was saying, like, we've got this 3-week window where this furlough either stops or gets cut down. All these people are unemployed, where people that were sat back before going, well, and I get it to a certain extent, because I work like a prisoner of war most of the time. And so when lockdown first started and everything was just shut down, no one really knew that much, I got to spend more time with my daughter and my wife. So actually, I sat in the garden in the sun, drinking beer and hanging out with my daughter in the paddling pool, and I was actually like,
beautifully sunny
it was
as well.
it was amazing. So it didn't take very long for me to go, well, no, because this isn't how the world works, we need to sort this out. But I got why people were like, people that were overworked overworked and underpaid were all of a sudden at home spending more time with their families and loving it. And I totally, absolutely get that. I think people work far too much and far too hard, but they're at a point now where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, fun's over. I've not got a job to go back to, or I can't live on 66% of my wages. And so this extended holiday is not fun anymore. So it's like, okay, we've got that window now where that major group, which is, they are the majority of the population, are actually like, what's going on? And looking at Liverpool, I'm loving it.
I love Liverpool. I'm going to go up at the weekend. They're having events over the weekend, so I'm going to go up and stand with them.
Awesome.
And but to make it extra fun, they're filming the new Batman film. So the centre of Liverpool is Gotham City at the moment. So I'm going to go gatecrash Gotham City.
I did not know that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it should be good fun. But yeah, I like they deserve our support, and they're doing such a great job up there. I think we just need to flood Liverpool with as many people as we can. So yeah, if you're not busy, come on up.
Yeah, I've got my family up actually, because it's funny, because my wife and daughter have gone to the Isle of Wight to see her family, and my family have come up here, so they're staying at my brother's at the minute. So I shall plant the seed to see if they fancy a road trip to Liverpool. It's only, to be fair, it's probably about an hour and 40 from here, I reckon.
Oh, that's nothing.
That's not too bad, is it? No, I'll see if my mum's up for some anarchy.
Absolutely, get your mum in on the anarchy.
Well, see, my mum's 70, and she don't look it, but she's 70, and her attitude is very much like all 70-year-olds and above that I've had conversations with. It's like, this isn't living. Like, don't do this for my benefit. Like, I hate it. I'm and actually during lockdown, my mum was lonely as hell. She's like, I'm on my own. Like, a lot of her friends were still at that point, at least, very much kind of, oh, I'm a bit frightened. And that's, that's fine. They watch the telly. That'll do that to you. And so I just said to my mum in the end, I was like, just come up here, for God's sake. She was like, just come up here. Like, I ain't bothered. And so she came up, and my neighbours are lovely. We just stood in the garden drinking wine, chatting over the fence with the neighbours. They had family members over. It's like, no, we're not going along with this nonsense. People have gone along with it long enough. And my mum's, well-being is more important than stopping someone else wetting the bed. So I'm not going along with it.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, one of my friends, she works in mental health for the elderly. Like, that's what she specializes in, is providing mental health services to elderly people. And her referrals are through the roof. And they're like, we don't want to live like this.
No.
Like, this is horrid. Like, they'd rather risk it, because as we've just said, death is a fact of life. And, and they're like, well, I'd rather live until I die, like, not just be holed up in a room. That's no fun. That's not you know, and it's
Exactly.
and that's what I love about Lord Sumption. Lord Sumption's like, yeah, I'd go to the pub. Like, yeah, I'm old, yeah, I'm a man, but yeah, I'd be in the pub because life is about like everything we do involves risk, doesn't it? Like,
Of
you
course it
can't
does.
do anything without risking your life. It's like, you know, you could put your trousers on and fall over and die. You know, people that happens to like a whole
I've
number of
very
people
nearly
every
done that.
year.
I've very nearly done that on several occasions, I'm sure. But no, you're totally right. You can. Life comes with risk, and that's part of the fun. It's part of the fun is that tomorrow could be your last day, so let's have it. And you know, you're totally right. Like it is that I think Simon Dolan coined it, where he said, like, you know, to stop people dying, we've been told we have to stop living. It's like that's not how it works. Like it's, you know, like, and this is another thing actually. Like, how many people? Obviously, there's the thing of like if someone's ill with normal flu-like symptoms, they get, you know, anxiety, they get put on a respirator. Well, they're game over then. How many people were killed that never had COVID because of that? That's one question. Obviously, in New York, you've seen quite a lot of the footage from New York. Obviously, a hell of a lot of people were killed like
Yeah,
that. But the other thing
yeah,
is people that give up. So you have these couples that are, you know, they've been married for 50 years, and then, you know, the man
yeah,
dies, and the wife's dead within 3-4 months, and she didn't have anything wrong with her, but she dies, and the reason she dies is because she's given up because she doesn't want to be without him. And so that
yeah.
you know, heartbreaking, giving up. How many people in old people's homes that can't see their friends, can't see their family, can't go out, can't do anything, just go, do you know what? Beam me up, Scotty. I'm done. And they give
Yeah.
up, and that's, you know, and I don't blame them because
No,
you know, it's heartbreaking.
I know. It's like people keep talking about going off grid and stuff, which is all very nice, and I think I'd probably enjoy it for a bit of a holiday. But I don't actually want to. It's basically just putting yourself into perpetual lockdown, going off grid, and I don't want to. I want to be able to go to the theatre. I want to be able to, you know, I want to go to the swimming pool, and I want my kids to go to school, and I want to, you know, and I want to go to work, and you know, I actually want to do all those things, you know, and I do like going out and living rurally for a while every now and again. But you know, if you're going off grid completely, you'd have to stay off grid completely. You couldn't. It's either an all or nothing really with going off grid. And I'm like, well,
Yeah,
no, I don't really want to put myself. I want to live. I want to go on holidays. I want to get on the plane. I want to go to the theatre. I want to see shows. I want to see my friends. You know, I don't want to live, you know, really remotely and have to kind of, I don't know, dig my own toilet, quite
yeah.
frankly.
No, I get it. I
Um,
get it. I mean, I get the idea of it, and for me, like, if it gets to a point where there's army with syringes, then I'll quite happily dig my own
hide.
toilet. Yeah, and just live in a community, and just, you
Yeah.
know, we'll grow our own food, and Alora will grow up climbing trees rather than playing in video games. Not that she does that anyway, but you know, and I'm happy with that. That's fine. But like you say, yeah, I live rural and I love it, but I also like going to New York City and watching the Rangers and passing out in Pennsylvania hotel on the floor, which I did a few years
Yeah.
ago. I like doing things like that because it's what it's all about. Life is yin and yang, and
Yeah.
yeah, going to watch gigs, and
Yeah.
yeah, waking up in a skip. All these things that we do
I've
sometimes.
never woken up in a skip.
No, I haven't either. I said that for a fact. I've woken up on benches. I actually woke up once on a bench in Tel Aviv, of all places, at 6 in the morning with 4 guys trying to mug me. So that's, don't do that. Don't fall asleep on a bench in Tel Aviv. That's my advice.
Well, thanks. I'm going to take that lesson away from this evening. I've learned a
Yep.
lot today, but
There'll be people at home
the
going,
point.
oh, well, that's my weekend done then.
But it's all right because all plans have been ruined, as we've already discussed this year.
Well, yeah, exactly. And
any
that
plans to fall asleep on benches in Tel Aviv have already been ruined.
they're rising up though. They're rising up. They're rising up, the Israelis, which is fantastic to see. There's been a lot of protest there, which is fantastic. It's what people need to do. Just rise up all over.
Yeah,
because we're all in it together, aren't we? Oh, they've had it really bad. Yeah.
That's the crazy thing is it's just it's the global issue of it. It's mad, isn't it? Like I speak to people all over the world. Like I've got friends in Israel, Dubai, Australia, America, you know, and it's the only time where, like, I've been talking to these people for years, where I'm going, so how's that the same thing for you that's happening for me? Like, that's not ever happened before. You know, like I've had friends in America that have been dealing with things like hurricanes and stuff, and like we don't get hurricanes here. And like, you know, and like my friend who lives in Israel and like, and so they have, oh, we've always had just completely different issues. And this year it's like, same issue. And it's weird. It's weird. Just no matter who I speak to, wherever they are, we're all having the same issue.
Because it's a script, isn't it? It's a script everywhere. And this is the thing. I always get said, like people say this, go, oh, what? So all the governments have come in together, have they? And it's like, well, they don't have to, because they're all answering to the World Health Organization.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to all come together. Like Boris Johnson doesn't need to phone Trump and go, yeah, mate, are you doing this? Yeah, I was thinking that. And all right, we'll both do that then. They don't have to. They don't. It's just we just follow the World Health Organization, and Silicon Valley is following the World Health Organization. I found out today that YouTube meets with the World Health Organization, so Bill Gates, once a week. They meet once a week. They meet to discuss content on YouTube. So today, YouTube have deleted something like, I think it's like 200,000 videos over the last 7 months, whatever. But they've just deleted like another 200 accounts that were talking about vaccines, obviously, because you can't possibly have a conversation about vaccines. And that's obviously on the say-so of the World Health Organization, which again that's Bill Gates. So once a week, imagine that. Like that's the thing where people say, oh, you know, everyone's in on it. Well, they don't need to be in on it. If there's one central point running it, everyone else just needs to do as they're told, which is what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why are we answering to Tedros? Guy's not even a doctor, and you know, he's well known for covering up cholera epidemics.
Yeah.
not the nicest bloke in the world.
And just committing some really hideous crimes as well. On top of that, this is the thing, isn't it? And so that's the question, isn't it? It's like if it is that centralized, you know, because some people I speak to who don't like what's going on, you know, they're still putting it down to a bit of just government incompetence, you know.
Yeah.
Boris is just a bit of an idiot, isn't quite getting this right. But there's no sinister ulterior motive, and actually Boris could pull it round. Oh, we could vote Labour in and something, you know, mix it up a little bit, and then we'll be fine. But you know, if it's something higher than that, then where do we go? Where do we go from here? What do you think?
I'm an absolute firm believer in non-compliance. Like I've always been that. And you know, people go, yeah, but that won't change anything. You know, well, if there's enough people, we just need the numbers, and we haven't had that at all. And so, you know, you have these protests. So, had one in London. What was it? 600 people. The next one's 35,000. Well, that's, you know, not great at maths, but that's quite a growth. So then we go the next one, and then we go the next one, and then, you know, so look at Liverpool waking up now, Scotland waking up. And so all these areas, these pockets around the north now that are waking up. London's just been added more restrictions. And so more and more people are going to rise up. And when they do, that's when it's over. And it is that simple. Just, you know, like, so in my village, there was 3 pubs before lockdown. There's 2 now. One's obviously gone, it's closed down. But if one of those pubs opens and one maybe in the next village opens, they'll get shut down. But if both those open and all 5 in the next village and all 20 down in Belper or whatever, and they all open, all of a sudden across Derbyshire, thousands of pubs are open. Well, good luck, Derbyshire Constabulary. And yeah. So that's what it needs to be. And people need to, you know, open your shop. Yeah, but what if I get fined? Well, if you close it down, you're finished. So it's that. Yes. It's like the gyms in Liverpool. It's like, well, they can fine me 200 quid. Well, if I don't open up, I'm done. So I could risk a fine. You know, it's like you're dead. You know, so why not take a risk? You know, and if enough people support them, and that's the point, that people need to support it. And if a pub stays open against the lockdown, you go in that pub and you drink beer and you spend money. Yes. And when the police come, you stand in the doorway, and we all just fight together.
Absolutely, exactly, and that's the thing, isn't it? And that's where I think that fear comes in, because if you're sat there with a pub and you're thinking, do I open it? Do I not? And you know that if you're you open, then you will get hit with fines, and you will the police will all kind of swarm you, and you know, you could lose things. Whereas if you knew that all the other pubs were going to open, then I think that's what gives people confidence, and that's where we have to really. And this is where I think it's it's obviously by design that our community has really been done away with, so we don't have that sort of like relationship that we used to, so that we can go, are you doing this? And like, because everybody used to have a wide network, you know, everybody'd know everybody, you know, all the pub landlords would know all the pub, but we've been made to be kind of more and more insular. So we don't, it's much harder. And yeah, but absolutely non-compliance and doing it en masse. And that is why I started the group. I started on the 16th of April, not because, basically because I knew this winter was coming and it was going to be like this. And I knew it was going to, and I was like, well, I best get prepping now. Like, best get prepping in April so that we've got
absolutely.
April,
yeah. And the other thing is as well, the other thing is what you've done by starting in April, getting out there, is you've taken all the flack from people going, oh, for God's sake, stupid, shaking their heads. But you've been saying what's happening and you've been pointing out what's happening. And now that's happening, you know, that people like to pretend that they didn't hear you, but they did. And so now they might not want to admit it straight away, but there will be people that were calling you all sorts in May that are now going, she had a point, didn't she? Be fair. Yeah. You know, and you know, I can vouch for that. I've had quite a lot of people that were calling me a bit of a knobhead in March that are now messaging me on Facebook news stories. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Yeah. That's, yeah. We knew what was coming. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I wonder, like, social media wise, like you've just said about like the death of community, like, we've become so insular, but we can connect with people like, you know, God, you're in Brighton, I'm in Derby, we're chatting, and you connect with people on Facebook and you know, they're almost like faceless people. And some of them, you know and you knew from school, but it's still not the same as having a conversation in the street. And, you know, everyone gets their little fix from Tinternet rather than chatting. Like, and I'm I probably know about 10 people in my village.
Yeah.
You know,
that's crazy,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah, and I've been there 2 years. I mean, they're nice 10 people, but you know, others, like, I'll nod to and they'll nod back, and that's that. But in terms of standing in the street and going, "Hello, how are you? You all right? Yeah. How's little one? Yeah, fine, mate." Like those sort of chats, it's like 10 people.
Yeah,
you know, which is,
and that's the thing, isn't it? Because we kind of think we're getting social interaction and community by these ways and means on Facebook, and there is an element of that's great, you know, like. You know, I've got a diabetic son, so you know it's really great to connect with other parents of diabetics. That you know, that makes those sorts of specialist areas are great for on like social media. But yeah, for local community stuff, like we've got some groups for like Brighton parents, and they've got like thousands of people in them, but we don't meet up.
no.
They all just sit there in the Facebook group going, I'm in Brighton, you're in Brighton, and we've got kids, but well, why not get together? Why
let's go to the park.
Like, yeah. Why are we, and so many are lonely as well, you know, because it can be a really lonely time being at home with your kids. But it's just,
it can be lonely in your own mind as well. Like if you know what's going on, that's, you know, do you know what I mean? Like I'm fortunate, massively fortunate in the fact that my family are, you know, we all do this. But I've got mates, like I've got one particular mate who's actually lives in the place that's just been shut down, that doesn't know anyone and doesn't know anyone that knows anyone. But he started messaging me. He's a wicked musician. We've been friends from doing some art projects together. But he was messaging me like, mate, and he's sending me screenshots of like abuse that he gets from friends and family and, you know, old work colleagues and stuff. And he actually, when the pubs reopened, he messaged me. He was like, "Do you mind if I cycle over to your village and go for a pint?" I was like, "No, I'd love that, mate. It'd be great. Like, it'd be fine." Because for him, it was like going out in his own town. It's like, no chance, mate. But all he is saying what we're saying. He very early on was like, this don't add up. This is nonsense. And so he's, you know, at a point where, you know, he's lucky in the sense that his missus is sound and she's switched on. But it must be so lonely for those people that are just, you know, you just want to plead with people, mate, can you not see? And then they, you know, it's like, you do know that the boat's sinking, shut up, you know. And I know. I can't imagine that, you know, to be on your own in that. It must be really grotty.
I'm hearing a lot of stories of people whose partners like COVID believers, and they're kind of on our side, and I'm like, I just don't know how I'd deal with that. I'm like kind of grateful to be single, because if I'd ended up in that situation, I don't know what I'd do. I had to find that'd be really tough.
Oh
because
yeah.
and I know
Relationships have ended. I know a few. Yeah.
and I know some of the like the big names out there, like some of the people that we see on a regular basis on like YouTube and stuff, their partners are that way inclined, and they're having to contend with that. So they're doing all this stuff on like bringing the truth out, and then they're going home and dealing with that, and it's like, gosh, that would just be so difficult.
Well,
But
we're
yeah,
talking life or death. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even if you don't, believe in the whole, what's the depopulation agenda and stuff like that, even if you just want to call that, some, wild fairy tale, we're still dealing with the death of life as we know it and as we love it, and the way that we interact and act as humans. So, you can kill humans without physically killing humans. You just kill their humanity, and that's what's happening. So I can understand how relationships don't survive, because it's life and death. It's not, I don't like sprouts. No. So, oh, you put them on my dinner again. That's annoying. I don't like them. It's so much bigger than that. And yeah, I mean, and I'm fortunate in that sense that my wife just doesn't have any of it. Like she's switched on as well, fortunately. But it must be hard.
It must be so hard. And that is it though. It's life or death. And I don't understand how people don't get that sometimes, and why, like, and because like as we were talking about with the men and stuff, like I've chatted to a few men who wear masks, and I'm like, why are you wearing masks? And they're like, well, because like, oh, I just don't care enough. Like, it's just a mask, yada yada yada. But if they try and make me have a vaccine, I definitely won't have that. And I'm like,
yeah, of course you won't, mate. Of course you won't.
But some of them I actually believe that they won't. But I'm like, yeah, but do you not see that by wearing the mask, you're kind of opening the door and setting it up, and for them to be more in a position to do that? And do you not get how important it is to say no at every single small bit, which is what I've been trying to do and doing since day one. Is like, I wasn't going to accept the really big lockdown, so I was going to go out and I was going to gather. It was absolutely illegal to do gathering, and and I somehow managed to wrangle it, because the Brighton police are very nice and they dubbed it socially distanced exercise with placards is what we were doing. We were
amazing.
So it's like, sure, if that makes you feel better about not enforcing the law, then fine. But I've just been like, no, like from all the way through. And it's like, you can't just go, yeah, all right. But no, not that one.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They're not going to take you seriously. Yeah. Like, they're just going to go, no, but you did all the rest. Come on now. Like,
it's like being flicked. Like,
yeah,
it's only a flick, isn't it? And then it's like that. It's like, yeah, but if he tries to punch me, I'll definitely stop it. But by the time you've built through that, and then that, and no, you won't. You won't do anything. Not really. Because you've already let all the momentum build up. You're right about the Brighton police, though. They were lovely.
Yeah, right.
They were so lovely. I even said to the woman when I left, I did a wee speech down on the beach, and wee speech down on the beach. It sounds like, yeah, fat boy Slim. He's Brighton, isn't he? I even said to her when I left, I was like, thank you for being lovely. Like, really appreciate that. And she was like, no problem. I was like, sound. They were great. There was about 5 of them. Yeah. And they were lovely. They were fine. They were, there was one funny bit though. You'll like this. So, well, I might have told you this in London, so forgive me if I told you already. But so we stood around, and my brother was giving a speech. Actually, it was very good. So he's giving the speech, and this guy sort of just came into the middle of it. And so obviously Jay's talking about the vaccine and how they're going to try and make the mandatory vaccine and blah blah. And this guy was like, it's the most annoying voice. So they've not even made the vaccine. And so I'm looking like, oh mate, who's this guy? And then Jay would say something else. He's like, oh, he was like that. He was getting exasperated, so annoyed. And I was like, just go away then. It's like, no one's bothering you. And then so he's, a few people got annoyed with him. So obviously they're trying to listen to what my brother's saying, and he was sort of, being annoying. And then, so then this woman pointed out, a lady called Anne pointed out, she was like, well, you're not bothered, mate. And he was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, you're not wearing a mask, and you're stood in us, and we're not social distancing, and you're getting annoyed at us for not social distancing, but you're stood in the middle of us, and you're not wearing a mask. And he was like, but, and with that, the lady, the copper, came over and went, can I have a word, sir? So she took him off, and I turned around and she put a mask on him. I was howling. Right. So he was just stood there with this mask on, really feeling sorry for himself. And then he just walked off. And I was just thinking, mate, how's your day gone? Like, how's your day gone?
Amazing.
But it was just such a it was just a magical moment, really, and everyone cheered. And it probably sounds like bullying, but because he was coming in and heckling, it was just so funny to watch her put a mask on him, and then he had to clear off.
So funny.
Yeah, very funny.
Yeah, and that is, the Brighton police are like that. If they come out, they just make sure that we're all right, like, and people aren't heckling, and yeah. But then obviously that was what you did that on the Friday, didn't you? And then
before London,
then we're in London on Saturday, which was a whole different kettle of fish.
Whole different kettle of fish. We were saved by Dad's bladder. That's extraordinary. I tell you what's funny. Well, it's not funny actually. It's actually kind of weird. Like, so he was literally like, I'm going to wet myself. So the guys that were stood with us, the security guys, were just like, they got us out. Obviously, I followed with my brother and my sister and my niece, and suddenly we saw the police surge, but they surged past us, and they were like, I was like that. Obviously, these security guys were like big guys, but they were all eyes on the prize, these coppers. So they didn't even look in our direction. We were like, right, go. And so we went and we bolted and we got like through Charing Cross station, across the bridge, got to the cars, and we were off. And then my brother was driving me and him back up here to Derby. By the time I got in the car, I had text messages. I had people messaging me on Facebook. Your dad's been arrested. I was like, well, I've just seen him drive off in a Mazda, so he hasn't. But that sort of made me laugh a bit. And then it got weirder and weirder. And then all of a sudden, someone had made this YouTube video about how he'd been arrested, but he'd had a heart attack and he'd been rushed off to hospital and all. And I was just like, the internet's a weird place.
Yeah,
it's a weird place where stuff just happens but didn't happen.
Yeah,
very odd. Yeah, so I was just reading all these stories and people messaging like, is he all right, are you sure? Yeah, he's fine, he's fine. But yeah, definitely sure that didn't happen.
Yeah, but weird things did happen because obviously I left Trafalgar Square and got everyone marching up to Hyde Park, and yeah, and so we did that, and as far as I knew, kind of none of the kind of speakers or anything had been arrested. And we got to Hyde Park, and they were kind of kettling people there, and there was all the riot police there as well. And then I left there, and then yeah, because they were coming again, and so we moved on again, and then people going, Heiko's been arrested. Heiko's been arrested. And I'm like, no. He was fine. Like, he left Trafalgar Square. He wasn't arrested. It was all good. But he had been arrested. He got arrested at Hyde Park. And it was like, what? Like, he was on stage. He was hilarious, though, because he was stood up on the stage as they all came in. And so, like, you can see these videos of people getting battened, and all you can hear is his German voice in the background speaking over, because he just carried on, because he was just very stoic, and he was just like, well, I'm just going to carry on. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And a friend of mine, Claire Wills Harrison, she was on the stage next to him. She's like hitting him on the back, going, you've got to look around, you've got to see what's coming, like, you've got to see. And he just turned to her and went, I don't give a shit.
There you go.
She went, okay.
Yeah, that's what you want. And the thing is as well, like, the Germans have seen this before. Yeah. They've seen this before, and that's been, obviously he's not that old, but it's been passed down through generations. So they know what this means, and so I think that's why they're a lot more vocal and a lot more, up for protest, because they know what it means. Yeah. It is. I must admit, and people, this might sound like a conspiracy theory, believe it or not. Imagine that. But I think that front row are coppers. I don't think they were coppers. The front row that came piling in.
Yeah.
I've watched the video footage a few times from mobile phones, from different bits on YouTube and on BitChute and stuff. I don't think they were coppers. The way they handled themselves, the way they piled in, the way they acted, and then the coppers came in after them and acted very differently. I'm not sure they were coppers, really.
No. Yeah, and we put in a freedom of information request to that effect to find out. Obviously, but it could very well be hidden, and they probably won't want to tell us the truth.
No, they'll admit it for national security or something ridiculous. They'll come up with something. But yeah, I think they were just mercenaries in fancy dress. It felt like that looking at them. Come in, and because there was no reason for them to attack the protest. It was finishing. There was obviously the German doctor does the
And
speech, everyone walks away
yeah, it was
peacefully.
Heiko, then it was me, and then we were going.
Oh, of course, yeah, you were speaking. Sorry. So yeah, and
To speak.
but then that's it then. But then what happens is that's a good example, isn't it? So then people go, how did the London protest go? It was amazing. Loads of people, loads of speakers, really peaceful. Coppers were great. So then when you do another one, I'll go to that then, because I was worried. I thought it was going to be a bit, no, but I'll go to that. So they had to come in at the end, and they had to come in batons waving, and you know, because they've won both ways in that sense, because they go, well, we let it happen, we let it go ahead, we're not stopping protest, and then, well,
Yeah.
you are, but you know, they can say, well, we gave them enough time to comply and X, Y, and Z and whatever. But I think that was a bit of a message,
Yeah.
you know, to people, you know, this is what happens.
Yeah, well, this is why we're playing it differently on the 24th, where we're gonna have some fun, because we're not releasing the location until the day, and we're just gonna go for and we've called it "We Have the Power," and that's going to be the aim of the game on the 24th. I'm really looking forward to it. Quite excited. Got some ideas up our sleeves, and yeah, just gonna go. No. You might think you can just come in, and you might think you can overpower us. You might think you can hit us with batons, but you can't. You just can't do that, and we're not going to let it happen, and we're not having it, and we're going to stand with more power than you think we have, and we're going to show that. And yeah, and it's not a threat, but it's just a reclaiming of our own power. You know, it doesn't have to be threatening to anybody else. It's not about empowering anyone else, because ideally we'd want them to stand with us.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it's going to affect them just as much as it's going to affect us. They should be stood with us, and that's what I'd want, because we need everybody, as we've said.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would. Oh, imagine how powerful that would be. Do you know what I mean? How powerful that would be if they just dropped the batons and stood with us. It'd be unreal. But
It'll come. It'll happen.
Oh, eventually it will come. It will come. Absolutely. You know. But I think also, you know, that from policing generally has changed a lot. Even like, I'm not, you know, not that old, but even I remember when the copper was the Bobby on the beat, and you went, "Oh, officer, what's the time?" You know, that sort of conversation. You're right, and you'd say hello to the copper, and he'd say hello to you. You know, and you, especially me, little scallywag on the Isle of Wight. But you know, but that's gone now. Now they just look like freaking Universal Soldier, and that's how it's meant to be, isn't it? And so I think they just started recruiting narcissists intentionally.
I was told by somebody who's very much on our side, and who's doing great work actually, but he's an ex-detective, and he said that the recruitment process is not it's now a screening process, and so they're screening for a personality type, and that personality type is one that will just take orders, and then they put them into this probation period of 2 years, and basically if you don't just do as you're told in those 2 years, then you won't continue and you won't get to keep your job. And so they're literally they're made to kind of be mindless drones, and if they're not, then they won't keep their job. And they're screened for people that will do that and behave like that. They don't want free thinkers, and this is what upsets me most, is like they don't want people who can free think. They don't want people who critical think. And you know, somebody else said to me, they're like, well, you know, if these police officers were actually worth anything, and actually then they wouldn't be on the street. They'd be in the offices, like solving crimes, like looking at evidence and stuff. You know, that's what the ones on the streets literally are just there kind of going, roll of 6. You know, like we had some come to a thing we had at Downing Street. There must have been about 30, 35 of us. It was just a really small thing midweek one time. And because there was only a few of us, we were all kind of very well spread out, you know, so that we're actually probably had about 2 meters distance between us all. But they swooped in. They sent like 60 police officers, swooped in and went, no, you've got to gather in, you've got to be in groups of 6. And I'm like, but we're all socially distanced. And they're like, no, the rule is rules of 6. And I'm like, so wait a minute, you're actually putting us into groups of 6, where if one of us did have a virus, we'd be more likely to pass it between the 6 of us. But instead of just leaving us all spaced out, and they're like, rule of 6. And I'm like, stop saying it.
But that is it though, and it's just drone. It's just like drone, like caveman. Like that, innit? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Rule of six. And I'm like, no, but what we're doing is better than the rule of six. If we're worried about COVID transmission, and he was like, rule of six. I'm like, and then he was like, don't mingle. The sixes can't mingle. And I'm like, I did say to him, it's the first ever time the word mingle is being used in a piece of legislation.
Yeah, it's a very 1950s word, isn't it? Mingle. The youths are mingling again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mingling.
It is very strange, but none of the rules have made sense. Like I said something when I did the Birmingham speech. I said, like, you can't go to your grandma's house, but you can take her to Alton Towers, and everyone laughed. It was like, but that was the rule. Like, that was the rule at that point. Like, you still weren't allowed to in her house, but you could take her out. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, none of it makes sense. I can't go in your house, but I can meet you and another 4 people in the pub. All right. You know,
it makes literally no sense at all. And but in some ways, I keep saying this to people, that in some ways that's beneficial to us, because
100%.
It does help, because it's an element of it's a mind control technique called fractionism, and if you confuse people enough, and people hate confusion, most people actually prefer bad news to confusion, because that's actually easier to deal with. People don't like uncertainty. So if you confuse people enough, then they actually become really receptive to whatever you suggest, if it will end the confusion. And so that's where the whole vaccine thing comes in. So they're making it as hellish and confusing as possible, because then they can just go, here's the one simple answer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of working for that, because I can see how quite a lot of people would go, yes, please just make this stop. But at the same time, it is also sending lots of people our way, because they're going, now, hold up. They can go grouse shooting, or, as my daughter pointed out, she wanted a birthday party, and she's like, Dad was like, no, rule of six, and she was like, no, but Dad, I'll have been with them all day at school, so, like, why can't we go out and have a party together? And so it helps in some ways, but then it also is aiding their plan at the same time. But none of it has made sense. Not from.
No, not at all. They've got a lad called Darren who does some camera. Well, doesn't do some camera. He's a cameraman with us, and he does a bit of wedding photography as well. And he was saying to my brother that he did a wedding last weekend and he wasn't allowed in. Freaking cameraman, right? So he had to take photos through the window.
Excellent. That'll be a lovely wedding album.
Wouldn't it? Oh, there's a bit of dirt. Oh, there's a window in it. There's a bit of dirt there. It's annoying. Like, he's framed you brilliantly, but like in a pane of glass. It's just crazy, isn't it? And again, they're just ruining everything nice. Like, that'll be, how was your special day? Crap. It was crap, because my mates couldn't be there and no one was hugging, and it's one of those things, isn't it? And that story in France as well, where women in labour are forced to wear masks. You're being serious, And again, this is the thing. Doctors said that they'd refuse to treat them and let them give birth on their own if they refused. And my question again was, where's the dad? Where's the father? Where's the men?
Yeah.
Because that's not happening. And I'm not, a big bloke, but I'm not having that. I've seen, my wife give labour. Christ, it's hard.
I could not do it in a mask, and I could not do it without my partner. And so many women have had to labour alone as well. And
it's disgusting.
There's just no way I could have done it, and I've done it 4 times, with no pain relief. So I can do it, but you need those things. You need your support network. And there's no way I could have done it with a mask on my face. Just horrific. I would probably end up on all the drugs.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what they said. These women were vomiting, passing out. Of course they are. The whole thing's about breathing. It's madness.
Yeah.
But also the not having a parent there makes no sense. Like, as in, like, the father. Like, why? Because he's been with you all day. So what does it matter if he's there? Like,
exactly.
It just seems, again, it's just being unnecessarily cruel. And I think part of the reason for that in fact, most of the reason for that is just to break us and break our spirit, because it's so horrific that we're just like, I can't live like this. Well, you don't have to live like that if you've got a vaccine. Oh, okay. Go on then. Do your worst. I don't want it, but you know, I can't go on like this. And that's the whole point, isn't it? And that's why people need to be brave, really brave now.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, we have to be as brave as running into a burning building. And,
Oh yeah.
you know, and people, because I sit here and I do a lot of things like, you know, get people to write to their MPs and we organise our events and stuff. But I'm just kind of waiting until we've got enough people to run into that burning building together, so enough of us can get out alive. But I'm up for whatever it takes, and I'm not naive about what it's going to take. But I'm not scared either. I feel like there's a lot of hope. I feel like we're going to come out of this.
Oh,
The other
100%.
side.
100% we're going to win. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always, like, some people might think it's airy fairy, but I've always believed that we choose our lives, you know. So it's almost like, you know, if you've got a horrible life and horrible things happen, it's almost like, yeah, but you chose that. And the reason you chose that was for a reason. And, you know, you might not know that reason now, but, you know, probably the worst thing that happened to me was I broke my tib and fib, leg was hanging off, flapping around, couldn't play football again. Best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Like, I realize that now, you know, 10 years later. I didn't know that at the time. But yeah, so we chose this. And I think, well, if I chose this life, I must have thought I could do it. Like, I must have thought I could win. It's almost like, you know, we were all sat up there going, who wants to take this one? Oh, what are they trying to do? All right. Yeah, go on. I'll do it. I'll do it. And I kind of feel like that. And even if that is nonsense and it is airy fairy, if it gives me courage, then that's great to have it. And, you know, if I go down, I'm going down swinging anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's fine. You know, carry me out on a shield.
What's the other option?
Well, that's the point. There isn't one. There isn't one.
Exactly.
No. And this is a great, like, an analogy moment on this. Like, so I was doing this series, The Walk, which we filmed, and there's one bit on the Isle of Wight. Like, I've walked the Isle of Wight about 5 times. Well, not about. I've done it 5 times. It's 27 miles, but it's literally like, it's mental hills. And so by the end, you're begging for an uphill because it's less painful than a downhill. It's killer. But there's one bit, and you're on this golf course area. Well, it used to be a golf course, but it's like you're literally in the middle of nowhere, and it's horrible there, and it's just wind, and if it's raining, you know. But if you quit there, it'd take you as long to walk back the other way, as it would to carry on and to get to the end where the buses are. So you may as well do it. And it's, I feel like that with this. It's like, well, you know, yeah, but it's going to be horrible, isn't it? It's going to be spicy. Yeah, it is going to be spicy. But what's the choice? What else are you going to do? Well, yeah, good point. Well, yeah, let's do it then. Let's do it then. Stop moaning, because you've got no choice. Like, yeah, let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's some wonderful people. Well, yourself for one, but there's some wonderful people as well that I've met and had conversations with over the last 7-8 months that I won't forget.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? Exactly. And my life is just so different now doing this. And, you know, I've met phenomenal people, like you say, and I feel really blessed. But at the same time, you know, it's born out of a necessity. Like, this needs to be done, you know, and so I feel like I've got some things to offer to the table. So, like, it's my kind of moral duty to bring them to the table and present them and do whatever I can. So, you know, as much as I actually enjoy quite a lot of it just because it suits my personality and everything else like that, it's not like, at the same time, I'm quite looking forward to going on holiday once this is all done, having a bit of a break, you know.
Oh yeah, I just want to sit. I just want to sit by the pool with a beer on.
I'm waiting for that day, like, because I've cancelled. You know, I could have gone on some of them, but I didn't because I was doing events here, and I just went, this is more important right now, because actually, yeah, I could go away for the weekend now, or I could just stay here and do this for now. It's like, it's short-term pain for long-term gain, and that's kind of what we have to view it as. You know, it's not pleasant now. You know, I don't really, you know, I give about, I'd say, at least 9 hours out of my day every day, at least, if not up to 12 sometimes, to this cause. But it's worth it for now if it's going to aid us getting through, because it will. Anything anybody's doing aids us getting through the other end. So
Oh,
every
absolutely, yeah.
we've all just got to give what we can, and but the more of us that give as much as we possibly can, the quicker we'll get through it, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And then we'll
so
all then we can all let our hair down.
then we can all have a. Can we have a big party at the end, please?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Big
Yeah,
party.
yeah. Oh, I
You
can't
know.
wait. I was meant to
Yeah.
go. This is another like part of this. Like, so I met a chap through all this at one of the protests, and he's like just a lovely bloke, guy called Craig, and he runs a distillery company and stuff. And so he'll send me stories and news stories that he's found. Have you seen this and stuff? We'll have a bit of a chat. He's got young kids like the same as me, and so I'm supposed to be taking one of my oldest mates, Turlo. He was 40 last week, and he's always wanted to go on a whiskey tour. So we booked it a year ago. I've been putting 20 quid a week away for this trip because the distilleries aren't cheap. And we had the hotel booked, all this sort of stuff. And now they've closed all the distilleries. Like Scotland's gone full mental. So it's just got refunded from the hotel, and so the whole thing's done. So I put on social media, I was gutted. Like, do you know what I mean? It would have been amazing. Like, been looking forward to it for a year. Anyway, so he messaged me earlier, and he sent like a really top bottle of whiskey for my mate's birthday.
Oh.
But Craig's never met my mate Turlo. He's never met him, doesn't know him. But he messaged me today. He was like, "Oh, there's a bottle of whiskey winging its way down to you because obviously your mate can't go on the whiskey tour." And I was like, "Do you know what? Like, people are arseholes, but there's some wonderful people as well.
There is.
Like, just really nice people. That gives me faith of like we can get through this because there's people like that around. People that think of other people, and that are just genuinely, like you, dedicating 12 hours a day. That actually we can get to the other end of this, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and we're kind of, we're getting there. As things get worse, that means that we're getting closer to coming out the other side.
100%, 100%. Yeah, it's like a spinning plate. If you let a plate go on a table and it goes like that for ages, I need to make sure my hands in sync there. And then when it gets to the end, it does that like dead quick, doesn't it?
Crazy thing, yeah.
The crazy bit goes mental, and then the end. So that's what we need.
It feels like the death throes of their control. It's like they're desperately trying. Like, I think they were losing control, and now so they're trying to tighten it up, and it's just not going to work. And so, and that's great, because they say that the most dangerous time for a woman to leave an abusive relationship, so the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship is the time when they try and leave. And I think that is one benefit of social media is people have been waking up, people have been waking up, had been kind of saying, actually, no, I don't trust the government on this thing and that thing. And so we're almost kind of trying to leave, people were kind of, that was the negative for them on social media, is that people were discussing this sort of stuff. So yeah, so they've had to, so it feels like the most dangerous time, but but that, it doesn't mean you're not leaving.
No,
it doesn't mean you're not going to get out.
Exactly. It doesn't mean that leaving's not the right thing to do.
Yeah,
exactly. But they're desperately trying to shove the horse back in, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's well and truly,
no.
It's bolted, it's gone. And that's what this whole kind of, like we were talking about earlier, YouTube meeting once a week with the World Health Organization, that's what it's all about. It's about trying to control the narrative. But it's too late for that. It's done. It's done. There's too many people now know what's happening, or at least are in a position where they know it's nonsense. So they might not be on the same page as us on lots of it, but they know they're not on the same page as the government either. They know they're lying.
Yeah, well, I put on Boris did a live stream. He did the announcement the other day. I think it was Monday, and while he was chatting in the YouTube comments, I just put a few times, "Oh, if you think this is all nonsense, come find us on Facebook." And we had 1,200 requests in 2 hours.
Amazing.
I was like,
amazing.
Oh, there you go. There they are. Those people. Yeah. So, yeah, people are coming, and yeah, we're on the right track, and we're going to have our big party at the end. But in the meantime, I'm going to go party up in Liverpool this weekend.
Awesome.
then
I shall put that to my family and see what they're saying.
awesome. And then obviously, and then it'll be London the weekend after, which will be excellent. So yeah, good things are coming, and we'll keep growing. But it was thank you so much for coming on and chatting to me this evening, Gareth.
No, it's been lovely. It's just nice chatting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know what I mean? Sometimes just chatting. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for coming to the events. And you did a great speech in Trafalgar Square. You know, lots of people really rated everything you said, and
thank you very much.
Thank you for supporting us and speaking out, because everybody who's speaking out is a freaking hero these days, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, let's keep joining together.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thanks, Gareth.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks to everyone who's been watching this evening. And yeah, we'll see you soon.